The United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction projects a dramatic rise in natural disasters in just the next 8 years. The world is experiencing a growing number of disasters, many of which are exacerbated by climate change. Even today, millions of people are suffering because of the cataclysms that occur daily on the planet. See what has happened in the world in recent days. On February 6, a powerful earthquake occurred in the southeast of Turkey. As the Turkish president later stated, the earthquake with a 7.7 magnitude earthquake was the most powerful in Turkey since 1939. Powerful tremors were also felt in Syria, Israel, Lebanon, and Cyprus. Reports of casualties and destroyed buildings come from different cities. Many countries have already announced that they are ready to send rescue teams to Turkey. But just a couple of days ago, the inhabitants of Turkey were happy with the snow. The locals, who don't see snow that often, were very happy because they could finally slide down the hill and have a snowball fight. So much snow fell in Turkey that 200 flights had to be canceled in Istanbul. The mayor of the capital said that several hundred pieces of equipment are ready to fight the consequences of the disaster, and salt reserves have been made. Krasnaya Polyana in Sochi, Russian Federation, covered in snow. Tourists flock to the slopes, but the workers of public services are not at all happy with such weather. More than 20 millimeters of snow fell in the village of Krasnaya Polyana, and almost half a meter in the mountains. 237 vehicles were involved in cleaning the streets from snow, and more than 100 people cleared sidewalks and passages. Huge hail fell in Argentina. Eyewitnesses sent footage from Buenos Aires. It was pouring rain, and pieces of ice crashed hard on the ground. Some hailstones were 15 centimeters in diameter. But this is not yet a record-size hail. In 2018, a hailstorm 23 centimeters in diameter was recorded in Argentina. Canada and the northeast of the United States are in the zone of action of the most powerful Arctic front. Forecasters say this kind of weather occurs in North America once every few decades, and advise residents not to leave their homes, as 5 minutes is enough for frostbite. On Mount Washington in New Hampshire, a record cold weather for the United States was recorded, -42 degrees Celsius. The Czech Republic was covered by strong winds and snowstorms. Because of this, there was no electricity in some Czech houses, and bad weather blocked the main highway from east to west in Slovakia. Strong winds in the country knocked down trees and disrupted the power grid. In the Czech region of Pardubice, more than 70 emergencies occurred overnight. Due to bad weather, many rail trips had to be canceled. On February 4th, an avalanche came down in Romania, which covered the hotel with tourists. 60 people were trapped. Among them were 10 hotel employees and 50 tourists. The avalanche came down in the area of the glacial Lake Balia. As a result of a natural disaster, the hotel building was damaged, as well as nearby parked cars. Fortunately, the rescuers managed to evacuate people, and no one was hurt. Kazakhstan continues to suffer from flooding. In the Jambil region, many yards were flooded. The water covered the settlements due to the sharp warming and the untimely removal of snow. Currently, a storm warning has been issued in the region. But at the same time, utility workers are pumping out water. The Almaty region was also under the threat of flooding, but the employees of the Ministry of Emergency Situations managed to keep the situation under control. Water came from the fields, the snow on which was rapidly melting. An excavator dug special channels for water drainage. Heavy snowfall and a sharp drop in temperatures have led to the closure of schools and shops in the Greek capital. Many government services and businesses have switched to remote work. Because of the storm, barber traffic was stopped on some of the central streets of Athens. Some metro stations near the city's international airport have been closed, and rail links to Thessaloniki in the north of the country have been halted. Fire brigades evacuated 4 people whose car was stuck in the snow in the Athenian suburb of Asperpyrgos. Heavy snowfall is a rare occurrence in the Greek capital, but the country has been hit by extreme weather for the 3rd consecutive winter. Heavy snowfalls and cold weather in Afghanistan caused many people, including women and children, to be injured. 150 residential buildings were destroyed or partially damaged. Impoverished and war-torn Afghanistan has no central heating. People often use coal, wood, or LPG for heating in winter. This often leads to casualties due to gas leakage or carbon dioxide release. Wildfires, which in recent days have burned as much forest as Chile usually loses in a year, continue in the country. Temperature records have been recorded in some regions of the country. The president of Chile had to ask other countries for help in putting out the fires. In the most affected regions, Biobío and Ñuble, authorities declared a state of emergency. Hail, flood, tornado, and it all happened in one day. The 4th of February was a difficult day for the inhabitants of the island of Lanzarote in the Canary Islands. There is still a yellow storm warning in effect. Heavy rains that hit the island of Sulawesi in Indonesia caused panic in the region. Large-scale flooding began in the southern part of the island, also flooded Borneo Island. The depth of flood waters near the rivers was more than a meter. About 5,000 people were affected by the flood. Hundreds of houses were destroyed. Recent snowfalls in Austria have resulted in high avalanche danger and significant road obstructions. More than 1 meter of fresh snow has recently fallen in the region. Some roads are only passable for vehicles with snow chains. The fire brigade was repeatedly called into the mountains to rescue broken cars. But just a few days ago, artificial snow had to be used so that tourists could ski. The Chikurachki volcano in the northern Kuril Islands threw ash to a height of up to 4 kilometers. Scientists warned that Chikurachka's volcanic activity could continue and ash emissions could rise to a height of up to 6 kilometers. In this regard, the volcano has been assigned an orange aviation hazard code, since the danger for aviation flights at low altitudes is high. These impressive shots were taken on the Kuril Islands, where the Ebiko volcano continues to erupt. It is not yet clear how strong this release will be, but emergency services in the region have already warned that the ash will be dangerous for aircraft. It is likely that it will cover the nearest settlements. Ebiko is one of the most active volcanoes of the Kuril chain. Regular emissions have been going on since October 2016. Finally, snow fell in the Australian Alps. Parts of Victoria and New South Wales have shivered through the morning with snow falling in alpine areas, while their northern counterparts in Queensland continue to endure a heatwave. About 2 centimeters of snow fell in Falls Creek, where access to the mountains is limited due to a landslide that affected one of the only roads. In the Austrian Tyrol, 17 avalanches were recorded per day. In some places, the thickness of the snow cover reached a meter. Avalanches also descended in Switzerland and Italy. Skiers should be very careful and ski only on safe slopes. They should also be on the lookout for reports from the authorities and avoid slopes with a high chance of avalanches.